And welcome again to Don't Be a Doorstop. You have returned. Have you subscribed? Have you liked? Have you starred? Have you shared? If not, now's a good time to do it because we're about to get into it. And if you have, we really appreciate you. I was thinking that it'd be cool if someone had subscribed, that you could insert like a special video for them while they're watching. And if they haven't subscribed, then you'd be able to insert you haven't subscribed yet, you should subscribe, because every time you watch a YouTube video and you have subscribed, everybody still does and if you've not subscribed, please subscribe. So it'd be like conditional sections of a video.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
But I don't think it's possible to do that yet. But anyway,
just
visualizing.
Curtain, is your mic getting picked up?
Yes.
Or is it your headphones?
It's my mic. Why? What do I sound like?
It's not as clear as normal, but maybe
it's probably your
find
internet.
out in post-production.
We'll find out later, as always, won't we? So
there's a hot take.
Yeah, should be my mic. But anyway, visualization. Last night or the night before that, I couldn't sleep because I was visualizing meeting Rob and Ryan, the Wrexham co-chairs, which is actually good. And I've started to do this more as a part of new year, new kind of new set of goals, new set of ambition, trying to visualize what I want to see happen to give that sense of like hope and optimism. And I don't naturally do it as much as I'd like to. Kim is like really good at it. So I'm trying to do it more. And it makes you super excited, which then gives you the energy to then do the task. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
are you visualizing, like for you, visualizing a win or visualizing a success or visualizing something that you've not got to yet, but you want to get to?
I probably wouldn't say visualizing. I probably maybe used to do it if, let's say, it's an important hockey game, then you might visualize it to take the pressure out of it. But I must admit, recalling back from my hockey days, if I used to visualize scoring or playing well, I would normally end up playing well, because I think it's just making yourself relaxed and believing in that process. So by the sort of, I used to try and do it a lot more later on, but I don't think I do it in my day-to-day. I think I'd probably vision cast or plan more than what would that feel if you're doing that now, like being moment by moment, rather than I'll probably do it in 3 months' time. I'll probably do it in 2 months' time. Oh, there's a delay. I'll probably do it in 4 months' time. I think it's probably more that side rather than imagine you're doing it now, whatever that dream is, if it's singing in Wembley or dancing around on TikTok with loads of followers or whatever. It's like, can I believe it now? I don't think so. But I think it's a good challenge to do, to see, okay, what does that feel like? Because like we're listening to the, what's it called? The Diary of a CEO.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how the interviewee was talking about how booking a holiday, a lot of the time the best part is the day before the holiday, because it's the anticipation. It's you're going on holiday, you get to rub it in people's faces and whatever comes with that, and the sort of excitement, the visualization of this is going to be a great holiday. But actually the holiday might be average or below average if things go wrong, or if you lose your Monzo abroad or whatever. Go back to episode 3 or whatever. But actually visualizing the holiday and what it'll feel like, or what's on the beach, because obviously you're more likely to visualize a sunny holiday, or I don't know, it might be winter if you're going to Iceland, but if you're going to Spain, you're visualizing a sunny beach and you live in that in the moment. But then when you're there, let's say it rains for the week, and afterwards you might be annoyed because it's rained all week. So it's fascinating. It's like, actually you need these sort of tent posts holding up the tent of your possibilities and your enthusiasm and motivation for life, with things to look forward to.
Yeah, as you were talking, I have checked my audio settings and have changed them because I think they're working for my AirPods. So hopefully they do some better. Yeah, I think it's in visualizing that you don't necessarily need to believe that it happens, but it's kind of like it's motivation, right? Because when it comes to making big jumps, right? So let's say off the back of last week, we're talking about don't settle, and you kind of want to visualize getting out of whatever that situation is to a better situation. It's probably because the reason why it's not happened so far is uncertainty. And if you focus on the opposite
Just
of
going to plug in my
uncertainty,
phone, but keep speaking.
yeah, if you focus on the opposite of uncertainty, which is that hope and optimism, then the way that you can trigger that is visualizing, like, how would you like something to be? I remember when I was a kid, I used to worry a lot, and mum and dad would be like, visualize how you'd like school to go, like visualize a day, and naturally that instantly put a smile on my face, and it gave me like optimism for that situation that in that moment was pretty bleak, right? So I think it's like, you don't need to necessarily feel like you can achieve it in that moment. It's the kind of the motivation to see something different, or kind of like get around the rebuttals or the kind of the reasons why you cannot do it. So I think the Rob and Ryan stuff is good. And I've been trying to do it with like the school idea. So visualizing, what would it be if I like owned a school? And yeah, it'd be called like Ryland Academy or whatever, and visualize that. And that gives me so much more drive to do the day-to-day, to get out the pit, to then climb the mountain that is the university goal in some ways.
Yeah. I think it's reminded me of what I was talking about. I don't know if it was this morning with you or yesterday, but actually I really struggle sometimes with not the casting out the vision, but holding on to something. Maybe it shows how lack of patience I've got or whatever, but holding on to something and fleshing it out over a long period of time. Because sometimes, let's say you have a dream. Okay, my dream was be a professional football player or hockey player, and the dream that you cast out is, you don't look at the pain, the hardship, the difficulties, which is a good thing, because I think it'll probably put you off going through your dreams. But also you don't always understand what those dreams actually mean. So I think I'm fleshing out, what did that dream as my kid version of myself believe those things to be? And I remember thinking about being a footballer. Well, being from a working class background, actually, it was the source of income that I can help people close to me achieve or succeed and have money as no barrier. But it's recognizing, actually, I can still achieve that dream. Because I was thinking, actually, maybe we should create a podcast on what would you call it? Like your football, pro footballer dream dying out. Because I think when you are 30s onwards, I know obviously Ronaldo's playing to his peak, but trying to get into pro football probably like after 25 onwards is like probably 0.0001% or something ridiculous. And it's recognizing, actually, I'm sure loads of people have got that dream as being a footballer. It might be like the influence side, the money side, the fame, maybe the charity work like Marcus Rashford is doing. But as a kid, you can't always comprehend that. You just know it as a feeling and you attach it to the football. But actually you go through this grieving process of, particularly if you enjoy the sport as well, of, I will never become that anymore. Which I think with things like entrepreneurs or businesses, you could always do that whenever. But with some stuff, very rare to be fair, but with some stuff, particularly with like football or high peak, obviously you could switch to snooker if you didn't mind what the sport was, or like doing any like darts or something. There might not be so much strenuous on your body, but there are some deadlines for certain topics, and it's hard when you pass that, because then if your whole life's dream was that one thing and you didn't actually divulge into, was it just because I enjoy football and I want to do something that I enjoy, but actually I enjoy doing gaming now, so how can I make money out of that? So it's sort of making it more lightheartedness of what were those kid dreams, and see if you could dissect it to find out what was the emotion or the feeling behind it of helping people or helping yourself get out of your situation, which you might not be anymore. And it's an interesting one, because it's so easy to be, I never got the football one. So then your tally is 0. You had one dream and you didn't reach it. And then that could be how you which will never encourage you to go for your dreams, because your whole body, your lifestyle, your emotions has gone, well, I always lose when I dream, rather than bringing it down the barrier of going, oh, it's helping people. Well, actually, I've helped people over the last 10 years. So actually, I've been doing my dream for the last 10 years. But how can I push that a little bit further?
I think two things to add on the dream stuff. I think one is, if you can't dream or struggling to dream, so let's say you don't have that dream, or you can't visualize it because of the scenario or the situation. I think one thing happened when I applied for a job down in London. I randomly applied for it after graduating because mum saw a Facebook post about the job. Then I applied. They actually extended the application period because they had no one else apply, which is funny. And also, it was for a web job, and I noticed that the form that they used was broken. So I said, hey, your form's broken, but here's my application, which is a funny way to apply for a web designer. And then when I did get the job, I was like, okay, cool. How am I going to make this dream? Because every designer, graphic designer, typically all the narratives are, you want to go to London. That's where you want to go and be a graphic designer or web designer, whatever it is. So how do I make this dream work? And I think one of the best things was, like, mum mind mapped out the options for me. And one option would be to
So what is a
move
mind
down.
map for people?
Yeah. So it's like, in the center, you have moving to London, and then you have different arms branched out. And this is all pen and paper. You have different arms branched out with the different ideas, and then you basically segment that idea into smaller ideas. And it just is a way of visually mapping out thoughts in a way that sometimes removing it from your own brain gives you more space to, like, breathe and think about it. So we drew out different ideas of how we would achieve the goal of, this job or fulfilling this job. And before remote work was really kind of a big thing, like, one option would be, like, yes, move down to London and stay in somebody else's house, in somebody else's room. Like, another one is, like, see if you could basically commute from Nottingham and live with your brother. And then another one is, like, you could live at home and commute from North Wales. Now, I know that living from home and commuting from North Wales sounds ridiculous to do in a practical sense, but just the fact that you're mapping all the ideas down, the kind of the far-fetched ideas or the difficult ideas versus the simpler ideas, it really, really helped make it more perceived as, like, I can do this, it is possible. And also, the worst case scenario is that I live at home and commute from London and stay a couple of nights in London and then commute back. So that would be wild, and it'd be very difficult. But that kind of practice and that approach to kind of like visualizing a dream that's kind of like hard to see was helpful. And also, it brought a sense of control because I chose the idea, right? So I was like, well, okay, we're going to do number one. So then I feel like I'm in control of this big thing of, like, moving to London, which back then was pretty daunting. And yeah, again, coming back to something that we've said before, is like marching up to the moment, like, get the job, then figure out how to get there, which is what I did, right? Then I had to mind map out, how am I going to get there? And I felt that process really, really helpful to fulfill the dream and bring a sense of control and optimism then in that sense of uncertainty. And then I think the second point, I've forgotten what it was, but I think
the first point.
Yeah,
it was think about it.
Yeah, it was something about the dream stuff. But yeah, you can carry on.
And I think what's useful with that mind map or spider chart or whatever you want to call it is, like, it is working with your emotions and with your ideas on the creative side rather than your logical side. So then you can throw everything on a piece of paper, then switch your brain to be like, right, everything is out. I'm not thinking about all the different possibilities. It's all down on a piece of paper. So it's limiting that creativeness, that emotion. And then it's literally just one by one, or you might be doing batches of looking at all the different items and looking at trade-offs. So, like, if you lived in London, you'd be like, well, actually, there's not much of a better cost because the housing's more expensive than if you commute from North Wales. But you won't get to meet new and interesting people because you'll be jetting off at home, or you might be spending a lot of time on the train. And I think it helps you. I think I've always found it really useful when someone says, how do you want to paint this room? I'd be like, there's too many options. Everything is, like, going crazy in my brain. But if it's like, actually, we want to create a light room, here are two colors, which one do you prefer? I would like, I'll know exactly which one I like straight off the bat. Obviously, how I communicate might be a bit different depending on who's asking me. But you have an inclination of, oh yeah, that makes more sense than that one. But when it is a blank piece of paper, it's a lot more difficult. So it's basically putting a target up, and then you shooting at it and shooting at, like, yep, I want to aim for that one, or I want to take off that goal or whatever, and then it's got something for you to aim for. So I think that's a really good way of doing it.
Yeah, I think as well, like if your goal is, like you're saying, sometimes you miss your goal, and it can be like traumatizing almost to then think about goals. And some things that I've done is, like, one perspective is just like a key thing to utilize in that sense of, okay, you've missed it, but what have you learned? Maybe it wasn't that you were going to be a Premiership footballer or like a Premiership hockey player. Maybe it's the skill sets of building a team and leading something is now utilized in this other goal of yours later down the line. Because again, we've become more mature. We understand ourselves more. We reflect more and figure out, actually, yeah, this mountaintop wasn't the actual mountaintop that I was going to finish at. There's a second mountaintop now that I go to. And I think with visualizing, sometimes I've visualized something so big that, yes, it's great and it's motivating, but then it's like, but it's going to be ages until I get there. So what do you do if it's really far and too big? And sometimes too big of a goal can be demoralizing. So two parts, remind me of the school part if I forget. One, goals, sometimes they say goals should be unachievable because otherwise it's not a good enough goal, as it were. But sometimes when you do unachievable goals, you're crushed when you don't reach them. Therefore, don't think about creating goals that are a bit outside your reach. Think about what did you do in year zero versus now. So for example, me with business, when I was doing business, I think last year I was like, right, my goal is like 250K of revenue. Now I missed that goal. But I was like, but if I look back to year zero, my salary, like I've tripled my salary, like in like revenue versus the salary wage that I got, kind of thing. So I've done really well. So sometimes not necessarily looking forward, but actually looking back to where you were is a motivator as well. So rather than saying like, okay, this year, now I'm going to do 250, be like, well, I'm just going to carry on doing what I'm doing. And then if I look back to my first year, I will have done more than my first year. So that's kind of like some kind of like goal that I like doing. And then the school part, having this vision of a school is great, really buzz, like inspiring. But again, it's a bit too difficult to like do it straight away. So what's a small iteration of that school? So in doing, I've been thinking about doing like one day in the summer holidays to trial and prototype a version of my school or academy where we'll have a group of kids split off into teams, and we all solve a problem that they come up with and vote for themselves, and then they provide a solution for, and then they present back the solution. I think that will be the first iteration and first example of my school. So then it's like, oh yeah, I can see there are achievable bits to this, like visualizing owning a school, you know, when them craning in the word Ryland Academy in like a Simpsons-esque style thing. So yeah, I'd say those two things are something that I've been using as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Whilst you were talking about goals, a thing that came to my brain, as it always does, it pops with different ideas, is, are goals more likely to not be achieved by not sharing them? And what I mean by that is sometimes you could have an unachievable goal that you hold only yourself accountable to, that maybe you've misconstrued your goal because actually it is woven into something else. So let's take the example of Premiership football player. That's a goal as a kid, but you have an option to share that, to either have those people to help you, take you to the academies or buy you football boots or encourage you, or you can just hold it in yourself and hold yourself accountable. That actually, if you had the sort of bounce board or to throw your ideas with someone, they might have said, what makes you want to be a footballer? And then your first answer might be like, oh, helping people, because I've seen Marcus Rashford help people and he's getting different honours for that. So then someone could help guide you to be like, well, these other people help, like actors or entrepreneurs or other avenues that then actually you're like, oh, actually it isn't the football that I care about. It's just that is the thing in my world because my friends talk about it a lot, but that is the segment that I'm interested in the most. So I guess it's really interesting that if you have a goal, it's one of those difficulties because if you do share it, some people might think you're crazy. But also if you share it with people that respect you, that love you, that support you, you have that option of fleshing out what does that goal like? What is your heart aching for? Well, it might not necessarily be the football element. It might be helping people. But equally, if it is the football element, cool. Like, how can you rally up the community around you to encourage you to go for a run, even though it's raining and that type of thing, rather than you feel like you're carrying this burden. And then once you've hit, let's say 25, 26, and you're nowhere near it, and you're like, well, that's done. You spent your whole life work to aim for that one goal that now you're in a grieving process because basically that dream has died. And then the rest of your life is in your eyes worthless, rather than going, actually, I'm going to journey this out with others around me and make it a more lighter burden that I can either have annual checks or monthly checks to make sure, oh no, football is the thing. That's the bit that I care about. Well, actually, it is football, but in the last 6 months, I've realized I really look up to the coaching, and actually I really want to push the coaching door. So it's like, cool, why don't you do the football and push the coaching? Well, actually now I've done more coaching. I want to coach locally to see what that looks like. And it is sort of fleshing out what that dream looks like to you.
It's so difficult because, you know, when it comes to sharing your goal or sharing the journey of achieving the goal, it reminds me of like experiences. Like it takes one bad experience to, like one bad experience is almost equal to 5, 6, 7 good experiences. So going back to I want to be a footballer, if you told people that, and if there was no reference point, and depending on the emotional state of that person at that time that you tell, they might be like, oh, footballer, you're rubbish at football, right? Because actually they want to be the footballer and they want the self-confidence to be able to tell you that they want to be a footballer. So I think I think in the early stages, it's better to not tell anybody and find people that are already sharing stuff. And then you can be like, oh, now that you've shared that, I can then come in with my thing. Because you want to kind of not cast your pearls among swine. You want to protect it because it takes a lot of mind washing to be able to achieve goals that don't look representative of the area that you've come from or the family background that you've come from, or if you're the first person that's going to do this or what. So it's really hard for people to find reference points and also get out of their own kind of situations to visualize it for you or on your behalf. So I would say, don't tell anybody. That would be my first instinct. Then if you are going to tell somebody, it would be like, oh, it'd be cool someday to run a school, wouldn't it? Then it's like, oh, it's just an idea. But internally and to your private friends, like to the people that are on your side, you need to be so convinced that you need to be like absolutely like delusional with that self-belief that you're going to do it. And I would say sometimes privately doing it is like enough to keep it protected and keep the energy levels up, because it doesn't take, like, as you know, like your experience with working with people and my experience working with people, it only takes that one person to say like, why are you positive all the time? And you're like, oh, should I not be positive? Like that really crushed me in that moment. And then I was like questioning my whole entire like existence as a human being because somebody said, oh, why have you been positive? Of course it would have been great to brush it off, but it did what it did, right? It resonated, unfortunately. So it's like, you don't want somebody to do that with your goal. So I'd say be very protective of it and not share. But I'm also aware that I'm at the stage where I'm like, I'm actually sharing some of it and opening myself up to negative criticism, because negative criticism exists. You're not going to be able to have 100% of people friendly and positive with you. There's going to be a chunk, whether or not that's 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, whatever that chunk is of negativity, is going to happen. So where can you trial it out in the small to kind of make sure that you're not going to be like pushed off your stool? For example, if I said to you, like, you tell me your goal is like, I want to be a Premiership hockey player or play internationally hockey. I'd be like, but you're loads better at football. Why don't you do football? Now, you might be, no, I'm convinced, I'm grounded. So you might be okay allowing some people to like critique or like question, because it makes you like double down on hockey, because you've like verified the reason why it's hockey is because it's X, Y, and Z. So it's a balance. But I would say, broadly speaking, don't tell people your goals. Write it down in a book, have a vision board, have it behind a curtain, and like look at it every day and like brainwash yourself with that achievement, and find people that are already talking about their goals and their visions. Like, I think that'd be better, because I think otherwise it's like trying to battle a monsoon of opinions, I think. And most of the time they're a little bit jaded towards the negative side. Or are you sure you want to do that? Isn't that going to be really hard, you know?
Yeah, it is an interesting one. And I think it is that making sure that you got boundaries of knowing who you're sharing it with. I think it's recognizing that they are for you, through support or through love, so that you know that you're sharing and they want your best interest. Obviously, there's going to be a tinge of, oh, but that means that you're pulling away from our relationship because you might be more busy with that or whatever. But equally, you might need that buy-in for borrowing the family car or whatever on a Thursday to go to your training. So it is a fine line of using both at the same time.
Yeah, because I think now I've become more public, probably because my business hasn't failed. And that's probably why I'm more public. But also I'm more public because I want to get more comfortable with failing in public, because failures lead to successes. It's a part of the journey. And I think I'm trying to get more comfortable with being like embarrassment and stuff. Like, you know, my book or books over here, like I've done that because I know that I need to make a first step in this long journey. And nobody, like if somebody said this book is rubbish, it's not going to stop me from carrying on, because that's just one opinion, and literally opinion. I don't care, because I'm focused. Like, again, I've nailed it down to, I'm focusing on execution. You need the first one before you get the last one. You need the first iteration before you have the best iteration. So I'm just doing that. Now, of course, someone would be like, oh, that's stupid or whatever. Or if it goes nowhere, it doesn't matter, because I've just inspired someone. Because hopefully there is a chunk of other people that were like, how dare Dan like think he has the audacity to get away with writing a book? He's not even an author, but they might be an author or they might be an illustrator. So I'm looking forward to like inspiring that stuff. So my kind of like own venture in my book is, one, I'm very grounded and I know exactly why I'm doing this. It's not because of this one book here. It's for presenting a 3D animation series to S4C that's going to happen, and they're going to buy it off me, kind of thing. Or going to pay me to license it, to watch it. I know that that's going to happen. So you can laugh and joke about this stuff, but you'll see me winning gold medals and you were laughing and joking at the first book, kind of thing. So it's like, I have to be very grounded. And then it just comes with, because I'm like deluded in my own self-belief, which I have to work on continuously. And I work on continuously by brainwashing myself. I've been listening to a book about how to become a millionaire, like just brainwashing myself and work on my mindset, because that's the thing that's going to keep me going or stop me from going.
Yeah. That's
interestingly, if you want to become a millionaire, they were saying that 10% of people acquire the wealth. So 90% of people make the wealth. And most of those people, if not all of those people, have made it through entrepreneurship or self-employment. So a business of some sorts. So there are a few people that are like super high up employees, like execs, or like paid extortionate amounts of money for being like their employee cut. But if you want to be a millionaire, then your own business is the route as a starting point to it. But yeah, I think visualization, practice visualizing your goals and dreaming about good interactions and good things. And vision boards are another good thing, like writing stuff down, like getting it out on paper. You don't need to tell anybody, but if you do want to tell somebody, you can DM us and we'll be excited for you, whatever that goal is. and it can change. Like my goal, I wanted to be a bin man, and it's changed, and that's fine. I'm not like upset with that. It got me to stage 1. Then now goal 2 got me to stage 2. My goal was I want to own my own digital agency. Then I was like, actually, I don't. That's not the end goal. I want to actually own a school or run a school. Like, but I'm not there yet. I'm on the journey to there, but I'm making steps towards it. You know, so it always shifts. Always shifts. Closing comments.
Nothing. The end.
And on that point, do remember we're still in Jingle January. So if you've got any jingle ideas for Don't Be a Doorstop, then please submit them. Have we got the form up yet?
Probably with this episode, yeah.
Well, we've had no submissions so far, yeah. So yeah, we will.
If you want to buy the book, that's in the description.
Yeah, if you want to buy my book, I actually realized. So funny story.
Or get it on Kindle.
There's QR codes at the back, and I've basically got a Welsh QR code and an English QR code, and then the company that I was using to create the QR codes with, it's like a 7-day trial. And then now you have to pay to use the QR code, which I thought was so annoying. So I've only discovered that was the case because usually QR codes are free to create. Yeah, there's a pyramid scheme going on. So now when you scan, so these are proofs. That's why you see the line across the side. Now when you scan it, it won't go anywhere because it's like, you need to pay for this stuff. So I'm like, oh, cool. I'm going to have to find a free thing to do it. So I've just replaced it. So hopefully in 3 days' time, when those changes get approved, the book will actually have the right QR code that goes to the Amazon page so you can buy more books. But so yeah, keep going. There's always these branches that get in your way, but all you need to do is keep up the velocity, keep up the momentum. And on that note, keep on hammering those nails. Bye for now.